So, work-life balance is something that a lot of people truly do want, and it's something that I also wanted for a while. And I currently have, a lifestyle where I do have the work-life balance that a lot of people wish for, but it's not, all, flowers and roses in the end. There's a lot of things that you need to understand that I had to figure out when it comes to the work-life balance idea. So hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Aquino and I help teach the next generation. So this video is going to be a bit more, honest. I'm going to be more open on how I feel because the work-life balance, let's get it out of the way, is amazing. It's beautiful. You can work whenever you want. You can enjoy life whenever you want at your own time and leisure. It's a fantastic, concept and idea, and I've been enjoying it. But what I do have to point out is that there are some things regarding it that a lot of people may not realize or understand, and I kind of want to just be more open about that because this has been my experience with it. Well, it has been very nice and enjoyable. There are some things that I have noticed and I have realized that I have to kind of put out there because I do talk about work-life balance. I've recorded, I think, a couple of videos on it already, but I wanted to put this also out there to go, hey, all of this sounds amazing, but you do need to understand these, like, not harsh truths, but these truths about work-life balance. So I want to kind of go over that today. So I will try my best to, put the truth on it, but also give maybe a little bit of tips because I've been doing it for a while now. And I want to make sure everyone understands what's going on and, has actionable tips that they can do to kind of achieve the proper work-life balance, I guess you could say. So the first kind of main idea of work-life balance that I feel a lot of people won't talk about is that when you think balance, you think 50-50, but that just isn't realistic. It's actually unrealistic in my opinion. You can't have 50-50 on work and your personal life. It doesn't work like that. You can't have half a focus and half focus. Now, what is true is the balance shifts between focuses. So it kind of comes down to prioritization, I guess you could say. So what is more important to you just depends on where you are. So I know when I lived back in my old house, it was, I guess you could say it was like 70% work and then 30% personal. So what that meant was I was spending most of my time in my day working on my business, working on improving myself, working on learning, like a lot of stuff. But when it came to my friends and my family, I didn't pay as much attention to them, which, got a little bit of resentment from them, but I was making a lot of progress on my goals and my business. So while I was making a lot of progress here, I was getting a little bit of resentment here because I just wasn't around as often. I was still there and I was still speaking with them, but I wasn't really all the time there. But when I moved into this new home about 2 months ago, it's kind of shifted. So now it's like 60% work, 40% at home because I'm moving soon and I want to spend a bit more time with them, but I don't want to sacrifice my work. I've definitely noticed that how much I get done has slightly decreased compared to when I lived at the old place, but I can definitely tell that I'm a lot closer with my family than I was back at the old home. So it's all about where you want to be and what you want to do. If you want to go hardcore work, then you're going to have to cut off a lot of your personal. You can't do both, unfortunately. I tried, and when you try, both fall, surprisingly. And it's just how the way the world works, apparently. I don't know why it is, but it sucks that it's this way. So when you want to do the work-life balance, make sure you prioritize what you want. So if you want to prioritize personal, then you're going to put more prioritization onto personal, whether it's a relationship, your marriage, your kids, etc., etc. You're going to put more emphasis on that. But if you're like me currently, where you're in work mode, and when I move to Texas, it's going to be like 90% work. I'm just going to focus on work and making friends, connections, such. That's not the priority. So that's getting like 10% of my focus. So it all depends. It always shifts. So whatever your prioritization is, just make sure that's what you truly want to do and just focus on that. And just know that it can change over time. So if you completed your goals in business, then you can shift back to more personal and let the business kind of run itself, if that makes sense. And the next topic I briefly touched on, it's sacrifices are inevitable. You have to sacrifice to get where you want to be. So I've had to sacrifice my time training as a martial artist because I wanted to focus more on work. And I knew that that hobby cost me 2 hours when I still went there. It was every Tuesday, every Thursday that I could have used for business. And I wanted to work on just business for those hours. So I had to sacrifice them, and I haven't been back since because I want to dedicate more time to my work and my business. And if that's something you want, you're going to have to sacrifice. But it also isn't just work itself. If you want to spend a lot of time with your family, you are going to have to sacrifice your work if that's your goal. If those are the two things you're working on, you have your family and your business, and you want to spend more time with family, well, inevitably your business is going to falter a bit. So keep that in mind when you decide priorities. Do you want to sacrifice one for the other, or do you want to leave them as is? Because you have to sacrifice something if you want to get further in one of the two categories, your work or your life. It is a bit of a sad thing. I would like to get back into training, but I already do so much. So I would feel I'd be spreading myself too thin and lead to burnout. So I'm going to continue sacrificing my martial arts training for the time being. And eventually when I get to more of a point where YouTube kind of runs itself and, the Amazon runs itself, then I would probably reintroduce martial arts training. But for the time being, I'm going to have to sacrifice it, unfortunately. And if there's some hobbies or, social activities that you do, but you want to do more work, you may have to sacrifice those. Now, if you don't want to, that's fine. But you do have to at least internalize that you are sacrificing more growth in your work or in your personal or etc. But sacrifices are inevitable, if that makes sense. Now, this last point I've touched on briefly on the first one, where success and balance are often competing with one another. So when I mentioned I had a high level of success in my business, I think my revenue was increased by like 30%. But because I was so focused on the revenue and the numbers in my business, like I was addicted to just working on it because I was having such a great time, my social life kind of vanished for a month or two. And the time spent with my family was reduced by like half because I was working solely on my business to get that growth, to get those numbers, because I really wanted to push myself for it. But it came at the cost of a relationship with my family for a little bit. If you want a high level of success, you're going to have to understand that it's going to come at the expense of your well-being or your personal connections. When it comes down to it, it kind of just comes down to what you define success. So if you define success as having $100,000 in revenue and having time with your family, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to do that in the long term, because doing that in the short term, you can only truly pick one. I haven't seen it, and I honestly don't want to try because I know I'm going to fail. You could try and do both, but that is extremely difficult to do, I will say. That's why I recommend define what your success is. If your success is being 30% with your family, 70% with your work, and that's fine with you, that's great. If you change the numbers, that's also great. Just as long as you're happy, you're healthy, and you feel you're doing good, then I would feel that is the definition of success for you and for me as well. If it's, much higher work and less personal time, that also works. It just depends on what you want to define success. For me, defining success would be spending more time with my family and, getting closer to them before I leave. But when I get to my new place in Texas, success will be like tripling the revenue numbers that are here right now. Like truly grinding as hard as I can. That will be success for me. When it comes to my personal, that will just not matter to me as often or as much, but the work will. So whatever your success is, you choose your definition, I would say. So in the end, I guess the most important thing to understand is that a perfect 50-50 work-life balance is not truly attainable. And it just comes down to what you prioritize as the most important. Is your work the most important at this current moment? Or is it your social interactions, your social activities, your family? Is that more important? You are the only one that can decide that. I can't tell you, because I don't know you. You don't know me like that. And it's just going to come down to what you want. Whichever one you may feel, there is no wrong answer. If you feel your family is more important than your work, then your family is more important than your work. But you do have to understand that because you're putting more emphasis on your family, your friends, your social life, your work will suffer. And vice versa is true. If you focus on your work, your social life, your family, relationship, they might suffer a little bit. So it's all about balancing your priorities. Maybe one month your priority is working. Maybe the other month his priority is family. It all depends on where you are and what your goal is. So I would say if you want to do this work-life balance, prioritize what you want to focus. And when you hit that goal, change the goal to something else. So if you spent a lot of time on work, maybe change it to more balancing towards family. So you're not pushing yourself as hard on work and can rekindle some of that, social life, family life, and et cetera, et cetera. It's tough. It's really tough, but it's rewarding when you get it down pat. And honestly, that's kind of what I hope. So I hope you guys got some level of understanding when it comes to work-life balance. If there's any other ideas or comments that I may have missed, you can leave them down below because I would love to learn more about, your thoughts on work-life balance. And it's just a topic that I feel like isn't really truly understood when it comes to, because everyone talks about the dream, but when you truly get to it, a bit harsher, I guess you could say. But in the end, it definitely beats doing a goddamn 9 to 5. I'll tell you what. So if you found these insights helpful, I definitely recommend checking out the video on why the 80-20 principle is so powerful. And that one, I kind of go over why working on just 20% gives you the biggest results and kind of go over the science behind it, which can relate to the work-life balance in terms of what your biggest goal is going to determine what your tasks are. And if you want to say goodbye to stress and take back control of your time, check out the links below in the description.